with another LinkedIn Live. I'm so honored to have Tara Gooch here today again, our typical Friday LinkedIn Live that we really share what's on the ground. We're out there every day in the weeds, seeing what everybody's doing and trying to make things happen for ourselves as well as people with us. So, welcome, Tara. This topic today, it's an interesting one you don't hear much of, but what is LinkedIn jail and how do you avoid getting into it? Tara, I know you've had an experience. Why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we can dive right in.
All right. I'm the CEO of Best Branding Solutions. Many of you know me. But yesterday I had a really interesting and scary experience with LinkedIn. So I actually got blocked out of my LinkedIn account due to too much activity. So this can happen, folks. And the way the algorithm looks at, again, there's over 880 plus million members. So it's a lot of information to look through, but it looks for activity and it looks for suspicious activity, right? So are
Mm-hmm.
you sending a whole bunch of in-mails? Are you automating your engagement in some kind of way? Basically, it looks for inauthenticity. So
Mm-hmm.
what it really wants is a good user experience for everyone, and it wants an authentic human connection. And you know what? I totally support and agree with that. There are some people that don't go against the grain and still get put in LinkedIn jail. So there's a couple of reasons why you end up in LinkedIn jail. Number one, folks, read your user agreements and know them like the back of your hand for social media platforms. You cannot use third party automated software. You just can't. It's not worth it, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know you and I have talked about that before, Don. But, it sounds great and it sounds like such a time saver. But if it puts you in jail, it's not worth it because then you could lose, you know, 2 weeks, 30 days. They could kick you out. It's not worth it, is it? So use that as pause. But honestly, yesterday I had a panic thinking, what if I get locked out permanently? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
That is huge because I just hit 30,000 plus followers this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And it took me a long time to get there. And I don't want to lose that. But what if it went away tomorrow? And it gave me a lot of reflection time. And I said, I need to have this as a public service announcement for folks. Guys,
Mm-hmm.
back up your contacts on LinkedIn. Have your contacts support you on other social media platforms as well. Don't rely too heavily on one platform. Diversify just like you would a financial portfolio, right? But also have a plan B. Make sure all your content is backed up too. I took that for granted.
Mm-hmm.
All those recommendations, all those, contacts, all that content that I've spent years developing. What if it went away tomorrow? It gave me pause. And I said, I absolutely have to spend
Mm-hmm.
today backing up all of that stuff and spreading the word so that it doesn't happen to others. Has that ever happened to you, Don? Have you ever been put in LinkedIn jail?
Well, kind of close. And I think you picked a really relevant, important subject because it has ramifications, like you say, beyond just a slap on the wrist. So, with 830 million people on LinkedIn, no one person means that much. And a lot of people will get caught in the wash, where just either by association or ignorance. LinkedIn's usually pretty good about understanding that and giving you either a warning or a small suspension. When I used to, and I started tagging again, you don't know a lot of what you should know until you're told what it is that you had no way of knowing. So, like when you're tagging, LinkedIn gives you approximately about 180 tags a day.
Hmm.
Once you reach it, you can't use it. And again, something you're used to using and now it's not functional, and no one actually sent you any information saying just now we did this to you, which would be kind and at least give you a little insight into what it is. But you do learn more, and it's more valuable in a way to learn from others' experience. And that's why the key to networking, the key to communication. Right now, we've got chat open. I see Blessing has congratulated Tara. Well, I congratulate Tara and everybody else out there who takes the proactive action. And actually, I did a talk this week, and one of the keys to better success on LinkedIn is understanding the balance between you and LinkedIn.
Yes.
So if you do everything LinkedIn wants you to do, and that's your purpose, you'll do very little for yourself. If you do everything for yourself and very little for LinkedIn, you will get penalized with reach. LinkedIn pays with content amplification if you do the right things.
Yeah.
I was listening to a video this week by Nathaniel Biddy, and he was talking about, having a plan for one thing, but more importantly, understanding LinkedIn knows everything you do, everything. He even brought up that there's something called dwell time that LinkedIn measures you on, is how much time do people dwell on your content, right? So if they're going to watch this video for 40 minutes, that's going to have a lot more value than people that just clicked in for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, you do so very little physically, actively, and LinkedIn has so much capability for analysis that every letter, every word, everything is measured. Everything we're saying right now on this broadcast is being measured just as if it was a content with writing. So if I go off and start saying doncohen.com, whatever, over and over again, it starts to get salesy. It gets to be about me. What LinkedIn wants you to do is get more people on, keep them on there longer, grow them, and LinkedIn will pay you in awareness.
Yeah.
And hopefully what I hear coming is, if everybody gets in position, not to get too off subject, you can't continue to ask people to put out quality content prodigiously without getting some compensation from the channel that they put it on. Just to give you an example, YouTube just created $100 million just for YouTube short creators, just for that group. So I believe LinkedIn in time continues to adopt everything Facebook and YouTube do, and will adopt this. So the best thing to do is be in the position where you're already producing great content. But more importantly, the last thing, and it's a nightmare, just like Tara said, is to build this whole thing around this great opportunity, knowing it could be very fickle, it could be misinterpreted, and you could make mistakes, right? That are honest, but they're mistakes. So I think that's so important, to find balance between what you do, what they do. If you can get to the middle, you'll get the best of everything. Tara?
I love that. Absolutely. And it does start with good content, folks, because I had the realization yesterday, if I get locked out again, what am I going to do? Right. So I thought about it and I said, you did this once. You could do it again if you absolutely had to. It's going to be painful, but you can do it because you're actually stronger now, because I've built up that community. And you know what? So many members of LinkedIn I have on this device.
Mm-hmm.
I have their cell phone numbers or their personal emails or a combination of both. And you know what? That's power. That's building a community. So I know if anything happened to me, guess what? I know exactly how to get people back because I've already networked, right? And again, that's the power of having people on multiple platforms as well that follow you on multiple avenues. So just a few weeks ago, I was sitting at 680 Facebook connections. That's what I had. And I decided to amplify my Facebook and grow that. In 2 weeks, I grew it from 680 to 5,000.
Wow.
I repurposed every single piece of LinkedIn content that I had and put it on Facebook because you know why? Good content is good content, no matter where you put it. And that gave me the confidence that no matter what happens, I have the skills and ability and that content to go ahead and recreate it and repurpose it on other platforms and to exceed on there as well. So don't get comfortable, folks, because again, LinkedIn owns all of this here. You own your content, but they own all the recommendations. So what I would recommend is saving all of these things,
Mhm.
right? So if you're on a podcast, you have a link, you better save that. Save it into a folder. Save your content into a folder. All your recommendations. Back up your content. Your connections, your emails frequently, so that if something does happen, you know what? You have an email list.
Mhm.
Be proactive, back up things that you have created, and then repurpose them on other media platforms. Grow those as well. And again, in the attempts that if something ever happened to one, in the event that something ever happened to one, you have something else to fall back on. And again, it's just building that awareness of your personal brand for more people to see, really. That's what it's all about.
Well, I think that, you make an excellent point about understanding your partners only to the point that LinkedIn allows you to be a partner, right?
Yes.
They have control over you, over everything. I see Christopher's here. Christopher's a great guy, and he thinks we're pretty great too. Thank you, Christopher.
Yep.
And then I think we have Shirley. Tara, it's great advice to back everything else, and to go along with it. Uh, what I find is if you take people off LinkedIn as quick as you can, they'll be in your email on a incremental basis. If you get on LinkedIn Live, I just noticed I went to my YouTube channel. I've got over 420 LinkedIn Lives on YouTube. And if you average it at 10 to 15 minutes, that's a huge volume of content. One more thing with LinkedIn and getting suspended, I think Nat Biddy, don't quote me on this, but he's been kicked off 5 times completely. I mean, so it wasn't, but meanwhile, he was the number one LinkedIn guy in Pan Asia, generating 400 million in sales for his clients last year.
Wow.
And what he says is, I would rather get kicked off. He said, none of my clients ever get touched. If someone's going to take the hit, I'll take it on my personal account. Because typically when you're representing a lot of quality clients, your account becomes secondary.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is for them. And that's, how you generate $400 million and you get clients like Apple. So some people get in trouble because they fly too close to the sun.
Yes.
Other people are just awful.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn knows that. And one thing Tara said that makes so much sense, that's so easy to not know or forget, is automation doesn't pay, because they know who's using it. They know how it's used. They know where it comes from. They see addresses. And since they restricted connection requests to 100 a week, it used to be like 120 a day. Automation doesn't make sense to do 15 connection requests where it used to do 150 in 5 minutes. And the other thing you lose with automation is touch.
Yes.
Anytime you put a barrier or an insulation between you and who you want to talk to, it starts looking phonier and more automated all the time, more templated. I would say do more with less people better. To what Tara's saying, I've got 37,000 followers. And if I could just pluck 300 out of them, and there's nothing wrong with having the rest, but I don't work with the rest. The rest becomes more of a broadcast conduit to their networks. a way of passing my message along and opening me up to their audience. And that's why LinkedIn gets richer the deeper you go, right?
Mhm.
You can stop at superficial, do what everybody else is doing, but decide you're going to get what everybody else is getting.
Yeah.
And one thing about, again, talking about Nat, he brings everything down to return on investment, right? You got to be able to get something for what you do, or understand your, like Tara said, a public service opportunity. There's nothing wrong with that. Sharing content, knowledge, all that's great. But if people are transitioning from a job, if people are looking to build an entrepreneurship type of opportunity, you've got to generate cash flow somewhere, sometime, because that makes it all worthwhile. And the, let's say the attraction is, if you can ever get to the other side, now everything's working, the momentum is in your favor. But if you don't have a long-term lease on LinkedIn because of doing things that are wrong, and I think, you know what happens? LinkedIn loves you to see activity, but not abusive activity.
Yes.
You know, so if you do what you do and you do it right, LinkedIn will support you. You know, they're in it for the experience. And the last thing, because when I was kicked out of my tags for the whole afternoon, I was losing my mind because I had it going. You know, I never thought, like Tara said, that one day I could get a letter or an email saying you just been kicked off.
Yep.
And getting hold of somebody at LinkedIn and talking to somebody is not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's through Tara's experience that people can get the benefit without ever having the exposure.
Yeah.
Right, Tara? So, you know, seems like it created a schedule for today that wasn't anticipated.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's like, again, it gives you pause, right? So I had a lot of reflection time. I finally got my LinkedIn account restored this morning, but all yesterday afternoon, I didn't have access to it. And I have so many LinkedIn Lives scheduled and coming up with really important people. Next week, I'm meeting with a chief revenue officer for a large company in Canada. The week following, I'm meeting with a president of another company here in the United States. So, you know, I have all of these things lined up and going. What if it got unplugged tomorrow? Like, what would you do? So, again, just make sure, folks, again, you think it's not going to happen to you, but it absolutely could, because it happened to me. Take my word of advice. Again, back up your stuff, back it up, and really make connections with people. Now, if this would have happened to me last year, right? Just last year, I was, I would say, all confession, collecting connections. I wasn't really engaging with a community and building a community.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I flipped the script because I became a full-time entrepreneur this year. So this year, and I know the first foundation of business is to build a community, right? You have to build supporters before you promote products or services, or nobody's going to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, I flipped the script and decided to turn connections into network relationships. Because of that, I have that safety net built up to where, again, I can reach out to 300, 500, whatever it is, people tomorrow and get the ball rolling on those relationships and pick right back up. So, you know, are you building a community? Are you collecting connections? If you're collecting connections, it's going to result in a net zero all the time. Net zero for growth, potential,
Mm-hmm.
but also what happens if you get put in LinkedIn jail, right? You'll have to rebuild and you're starting from scratch, and it might take you as long, if not longer. So, you know, lots of lessons here, folks, but important things are be a thought leader. LinkedIn values that. Really strive for relationships, not transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Back up your files, back up your contacts and your email lists,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure make sure that you're not reliant on just one singular platform, because if you are, you never know what could happen. Now, the beautiful thing with these LinkedIn live streams that I love, like you said, Don, they're backed up on YouTube. We could rerun all of these on YouTube and start a brand new channel at any point in time. That's the beauty of it. So we already have this content made and generated, and now it's just a matter of getting it plugged in, adding in SEO, adding in keywords, and formulating it. If we did that, it could be turned on tomorrow and we could have a whole new audience. So regardless of what happens to you on one platform, have that plan B in place, but always back up your stuff. So important.
Yeah, I mean that's just essential. Also, Chris likes my cool hat. Well, I like you liking my cool hat, Chris. So appreciate it. Yeah, well, that's one of the foundations to business.
Yep.
Is security, and security is protecting what you have. Security is also being safe where you're at, right? So what I try to do, and I think what people don't always do, is have a content strategy for 30 or 60 days and see what I'm doing.
Yep.
And see what the big picture looks like. And there's a saying, well, there's a couple sayings that relate to this. One is, pigs eat, hogs get slaughtered, right? So if you just do what you're supposed to do, everybody's happy. When someone goes way overboard and starts to be abusive in any way, shape, or form, they end up flying over the radar. So what I suggest is don't fly too close to the sun. Do what works, and do what works towards individual people. The people who get in trouble are the broadcasters, the people who just throw a cannon of stuff out there all the time with no concern where it's going to hit, versus the sharpshooters who are really picking the people out of the crowd who say, not only, you get to the point where you think what success level is. And initially you think connections. Yep. Right? The more connections I have, the more opportunities, the more people. It just seems like more is better. When you get into that, you don't realize not only is there a good side, but there is a responsibility, a work side to it.
Yeah.
So if you do a post and you get 300 comments, you've got 300 responses to respond to. And maybe only 10% were relevant or aligned. Wouldn't it be better with a more niched content, getting the 30 or 35 and getting them qualified for you? And actually LinkedIn Live is perfect for it, because what I found since doing it in the last 7 months is the people who respond fit a couple classifications. One is they're new, fresh, today, interested, and they're people who are LinkedIn Live oriented. So they relate to video. They're okay with seeing people in person. They're okay with responding. Those are much better people than people, like Tara says, you might have met a year ago as a different person to them. You've grown, you've changed. The story last year isn't the story you are telling this year. So, that saying, it's easier to give birth than raise the dead, is the same thing. Work with what you have. And you know what? Be the kind of citizen you would want somebody to be the citizen of your land, like LinkedIn is. And you know what you do, because I've done it with big companies, with Walmart, with Amazon on a huge scale, is find out how you can help them.
Yeah.
Find out what they need. When I made my biggest gains, I would always go to headquarters at Walmart or Amazon and say, what's your biggest challenge coming up? I've got some reserve. I can apply myself to it. And they would share it, and we become more strategic. In LinkedIn, you want to get positive attention from LinkedIn, and that's the challenge, because they have what's called an SSI score, yep, which is a social selling index, and you can find it. If you rate the highest there, you've done so much in LinkedIn's eyes for LinkedIn, but you haven't done enough for yourself. And if you disregard the SSI score, then if you get a lower one because now you're doing things that are more beneficial to you, they start restricting it.
Yeah.
So now your score goes down just because they're shortening the window of opportunity. So if you don't know all this, the best you can do is the best you can do, which is quality content, responsive communication. You know, if you're soliciting interaction, you've got to jump on it when it shows up, right? Or what are you trying to do? Have them do this and your part just because you're a nice person? It doesn't work that way. So we've got Poonam is here. Okay, Christopher Steele approves. 2 follows, 2 bell clicks for people in this thread. Be quick and nimble only if you have to ask. Well, that's great, Christopher. Christopher setting the example, being proactive, taking advantage of opportunities that are there. And this also lends itself to people meeting aligned people that are into LinkedIn Live. That, you know, I know Christopher's doing things broadcasting too, and's got something going for him. So I think we're also the step stool for people that are curious and want to get into what we're doing, want to model what we're doing, and hopefully we impress enough people in a good way that they want to refer people to us as a feather in their hat.
Yeah.
To say, I ran into these 2 individuals and I'm learning a lot, because that's where things take off. Is you have to do so much and you got to pick up some inertia and some momentum. But once you get it going, it has a life of its own. So it's like jump starting something. I got Marco here, just saying hello. Great to have you, Marco. So what do you think? You know, how does this? Seems like it humbled you quite a bit, made you more modest, made you more protective. You know, made you a lot of things. So in some ways, you almost have to give credit to LinkedIn for, you know, maybe putting a little scare and showing you what some people I'm sure experience, that they built huge audiences, were creating huge lead generation and business development operations, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And unlike a Hilton going to a Sheraton, there is not another LinkedIn. I mean, you can go to Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all that, but you're going to be going against the wind when it comes to it depends what you're into, right? If you're just into things that apply to everything, LinkedIn's probably not important. If you're, put it this way, if you're a LinkedIn trainer or coach, how do you do LinkedIn? And put it this way, when a potential client goes to your site and you're not there and you don't show up, that is like something you don't want to happen.
I know. And it's like we just released that LinkedIn personal branding playbook, you know, program, that online program. And again, what if I didn't have a LinkedIn account, right? We're building this sales funnel right now to support that program. And if I didn't have that, you know, LinkedIn account that says 30,000 plus connections, would I even be able to convert in that funnel? So it's so important, guys. Again, it's, you know, LinkedIn is where you want to be. This is the absolute best social media platform. I'm prescribed to the same theories as you, Don. Otherwise, you're going against the wind. So if you're a LinkedIn trainer or coach, if you're a business person at all, you have to be on LinkedIn. But don't go against the grain. Make sure you read those user agreements very closely. No third-party automated software, and just watch out, right? So last week I had 85% increase in profile views in 7 days.
Wow.
I don't even know how that happened. That was not automated in any way. So it was just me producing a lot of content, but it gets flagged, right? So just be mindful, be wary. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing sometimes. And, just be conscious and cognizant because, again, it could go away tomorrow. So make sure that you hold those user agreements in the forefront of your mind, back up always, and build that community. So if something does happen, you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, and also realize the opportunity is strong enough that it's worth being a little extra careful.
Yeah.
It's good being recognized as someone who follows rules, who's a straight shooter, because how do you represent somebody else
Yep.
when what they see you doing is what they expect you to do for them? And I think, there's no substitute for relationship building. There is no automation to it.
Yep.
All automation will give you will be more of what you're already getting. And if what you're already getting isn't making it, now you got more of the same versus maybe step back, treat this like it could be a big opportunity down the road. And you wouldn't want to do anything. If you bought a McDonald's for $1 million, I mean, you would be going through that place every minute, keeping it spotless, greeting customers if you did the right thing. Think of this the same way, is you're building a franchise in a sense that's yours. It's
Yep.
your own branded opportunity. What LinkedIn does is give you free rent on their platform so that you can, let's say, be successful, but also help them become successful. And there's more time to be put into content thought, into how you're communicating. I mean, I'm changing every day. I mean, my profile, if you were to go back, if you could go back, changes every day. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a look, sometimes it's a feel. But when I was in retail, there was a saying, retail is detail. I never believed in chairs. I believe just keep walking the store, straightening things up, keeping things clean, talking to customers. And the same thing on LinkedIn. Detail is so important. I love LinkedIn Live because you can make so many mistakes and have an excuse saying, well, I was live.
Yeah.
Right? Once you create a video, it's well, you could have edited that. You could have redone that. You could have done all that stuff. And this way, there's no responsibility and there's no homework. So what I suggest, and I think what Tara points out more than anything else, there's so much people don't know. It even gives people more reason to get coaching, to reach out and build community, to go out. And here's what polls are for. If you don't know, don't do until you ask, right? So if you say, I'm going to do this, does anybody out there have any experience or what's your opinion? Now you get, buy some vowels before you solve the puzzle. And then in addition to it, you're asking for help, which lends other people to ask help from you. It's okay, right? So there's so much to it. So wherever we start, it's really now, what do you do with this information?
Yeah.
Right? And one day you may thank Tara forever for saying, because of that LinkedIn Live, I saved my data. I was more careful. I looked at the rules and regulations LinkedIn puts out. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? While you're waiting for that big call to come in or that invitation on LinkedIn, learn more about it, be better for it, and be better for other people because you're better for it.
Absolutely. I love that, Don. It's perfect.
Yeah. So it looks like, we went 34 minutes today. This was great. I want to thank Tara so much for bringing this subject up because it's so easy to gravitate back to, lead generation or strategies. And what I'm focused on now, I learned from that video the other night from Nat, what he promotes, and this is a good takeaway, is your content should focus no more than 3 pillars of information, which means, like in my case, I would say LinkedIn Live is something I will have content. LinkedIn strategy, maybe LinkedIn mindset. And it says every time you have content, it should cover one of these areas because you'll continue to reinforce your specialties and your passion. And that's so important. So, like I say, you could skip to the front, you can get in the fast lane. I'm not hyping this because it's true. I know even what Tara's saying, she's got a fantastic trajectory. She's doing things right. Why wouldn't you want to line up with someone like Tara or myself? And here's the beauty of it. All it takes is a Zoom call to learn more before you got to sign something, jump into something. Trust yourself to trust what you can learn for yourself with other people and make us more responsible for what we say on LinkedIn Live when we actually go to work. Yeah. So any final thoughts or good insights, Tara, you can share?
Absolutely. Yeah, it helps to work with somebody. Again, we've said it before, that's a few steps ahead of you or more. Because, you know, what I wouldn't have given, Don, to know you 3 years ago, what I wouldn't have given. Unfortunately, we just met this year, which better late than never. But you could have helped me along so much farther, so much quicker, to the point where I wouldn't have had to wait so many years to start my own business full time. Because I had somebody to piggyback on to help me with, right? So again, it doesn't matter where you are in your LinkedIn journey. If you signed in for the first time yesterday, or if you've been on here for a few years or months and have gotten stagnation and not growth, pair up with somebody like us because we have literally been through it all. We have been through it all. There's no point to going on it alone. It takes way too much time and effort. Pair with somebody who is currently getting leads on LinkedIn, who knows how to monetize their profiles, who knows how to optimize their profiles, who knows how to get reach organically. That's what it's all about, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I did a poll. I know we're kind of gone over time, but
it's fine. We got plenty of time.
We got time. I did a poll last week, and the poll question was, what's your biggest struggle with LinkedIn? So I had a couple different things. One of them was growth and reach. One of them was monetizing profile, content strategy, I think was the third. The biggest gripe from all people, and I had over 200 votes, was reach. Reach. Well, folks, you don't have to worry about reach because guess what? Hire a heavyweight. Hire a heavyweight that takes care of the reach for you. Hire somebody that has 30,000 whatever plus connections that has incredible reach already. And guess what? Every time we do a LinkedIn Live with a client, they get 15, 20, 50 connections just from that. All of a sudden, reach is not a problem because you hired a heavyweight to do the work for you. So if reach is an issue, it shouldn't be because that's why we're here. Reach is neither of our problem. So, I would say that work with somebody that you don't have to worry about that reach because, again, out of 200 votes, that was the biggest one. I actually was surprised. And I said, clearly, I'm not communicating my value enough to my audience because all of those 200 people should be a client, right? So clearly communicate your value, but lean on a heavyweight. Go to somebody like Don or myself and get that help because what does the cost of one opportunity that's missed cost you? What is that cost? Is it $5,000, $20,000, $1 million? Why would you wait on the cost of that opportunity that's missed? Invest today, hire that heavyweight to help you gain that reach, to get in front of that target client so much quicker, so much more efficiency. It's so worth your time.
Well, and I think LinkedIn Live and this show offers people a toe in the water towards that. So now they get exposure and access to us. They're hearing how we talk, which is really, it leads back to how we think, which leads back to your mindset. And actually, I had a great show with Gretchen Skolka this week.
Yeah.
And it was all about, and she's great. And it was all about mindset. So you could pick out 10 or 15 key areas that if you drill down, reinvented yourself or optimized those areas, you're going to look so much better. You're going to project so much better. And anytime you look better, feel better, and do better, you tend to get better. So that's my advice. And trust yourself to challenge yourself, right? Stretch a little, do things that aren't always comfortable, but are curious or interesting. And if it's, here's one thing you have to understand too and appreciate. If it's not someone like me and Tara, it's going to be someone else that's already there influencing you, right? So you're getting feedback, you're listening, you're seeing. Who are you looking at? What are they doing? What have they done? When Tara says she's grown to 30,000 and I've done this and I'm doing this, we do a lot of prodigious stuff because we figure it out and make it easier to do, more comfortable, and more successful. And when that happens, you can't wait to do more of it. In cases now that we're talking about, Tara's being analyzed for doing too much, when I would say 99% of the people on LinkedIn do too little.
Yep.
Right? So there's a big difference from what I'm doing and Tara's doing and possibly what you're doing, but it doesn't have to do with time. It has to do with application. If you do exactly what Tara does every day, the way she does it, you'll get exactly what she gets. There's enough room for everybody.
Yep.
Right? And the key is the fire has to start with the audience. We can only push so much stuff out. It really has to pull itself back in and give us a chance to work with it. It's like planting seeds. At a certain point, cultivation comes up, but most importantly, harvest. And you got to ask yourself, what's your harvest right now? Look out in your field of LinkedIn. See what you planted. Okay, see where it is as far as being cultivated. And when are you going to get your harvest? This year, next year? And to Tara's point, it's never too late, because the good thing about meeting when you meet, you're better when you meet if it took longer. Right? If someone would have known me the first day, they probably wouldn't have had much value for me, because everybody's thinking, until I can monetize, I'm happy to trade. Yeah. Right? And if I'm with somebody that just being near them and around them gets a chance to share some of their experience and vice versa, now you're kind of ratcheting each other up together. And now you've got two in a core that hopefully can attract 3, 4, 5 more and become something significant to build from. And I think that's really where LinkedIn Live will come, is more groups, more opportunities for people to participate. So anyways, you can see how much fun we're having. Time has no value to us at certain points.
We just love talking to each other.
Yeah,
we can love
so, and that's the great thing. If all you do is talk with someone else and it's a great conversation, or you just talk by yourself,
yep,
then it's worthwhile, because you're expressing yourself. And I'll tell you, so many times I hear stuff I said I would have never heard if I didn't say it.
Yep.
It just came to me, or someone elicited it from me. And it's like, wow, this just came out there and now it's real. And sometimes you think about it, it's like, that could happen, right? And it becomes more fun. So have fun until you're making a lot of money, and then you'll even have more money and more fun. So with that, we'll talk again, possibly next week. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk again. Bye for now.